Yeah.
Hi，大家好，欢迎来到今天晚上的会议。我们有提供普通话的翻译，如果有需要的话，请联系我们。
Okay.
Should I say it again?
It's okay. I mean, it's for here.
Cool.
Yes, okay, come on, oh, right here. Go ahead.
Sí, buenas noches. Si alguien desea interpretación o traducción para español, también nos deja saber. Tenemos los equipos y bienvenidos todos.
Are there any other interpreters here? No, that's it? Okay. So I'm going to call the roll. Camille Casaretti.
Present.
Antonia Ferrer, yes, I'm here. Tia Shelsteed.
Here.
Claudia Lechuga.
Here.
Vincent Liu. Ina Blishteen. Absent. Councilmember Nana Poku Agyaku. Is that correct? Can you correct my pronunciation? Agyaku? What's better? Agyaku. Agyaku. Thank you. And Alfred De Ingenis. Did I pronounce that right? Okay. Is there a better way? Is there a better way to pronounce it? De Ingenis? De Ingenis. De Ingenis. Okay. Thank you. And Joseph Alexander, present. And Ivan Banda. Okay. Yes. Nana's here. Okay. So we do have quorum. Good. We only have one absence. So I. Is it possible to share at least the meeting ID with people so that they don't write them? Okay, that we have to decide how to see them now. I'm okay. I didn't think I really should have been doing online, but I didn't.
It's weird. It wasn't allowing me to do it in the browser, but I could Facebook Live with the app, which is what I'm trying to do now. If I can figure out how to log out and log in as that.
Okay, I think we have to continue on with the official meeting. I'm going to read the introduction. Thank you all for coming to District 15 Community Education Council tonight. We appreciate your time and we're glad you can join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President. CEC15 is a state mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. CEC15 serves 35 elementary and middle schools and 1 high school. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and elected officials. We approve district zoning lines submitted by the Department of Ed. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. We actively seek input and feedback from the public, and we encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. All of our names and contact info are available on our website. do we have anybody who would volunteer to be parliamentarian and sort of read the public comment protocol?
I volunteer.
Yeah, okay,
I go.
okay. It's right there.
Hello, my name is Ivan Banda, and I'm going to be tonight talking about the having the role of parliamentarian for tonight. And effective Friday, June 25th of 2021, the governor's executive orders number 202 through 202.111, which authorize public bodies to hold meetings remotely, have been re-signed. Tonight's meetings are taking place in person and will include multiple public comment periods so that we might allow for additional feedback from our families and school community members. Per open meetings law, only people in person might participate. We encourage you to send comments at any time to CEC15 at schools with an S, nyc.gov. And we're gonna have next our president, Camille Casaretti report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. So we got off to a little bit of a late start and having a lot of trouble with our live stream, but Tia has figured it out. Thank you, Tia. So I'm pretty sure that we are coming to you live right now from 131 Livingston Street, 6th floor conference room. Welcome everyone to the CEC15 August meeting, and thank you for taking the time to join us. We are at the start of a new CEC term, and we have a new team, some of whom are returning, some are new, some are appointed. Since we last met, the borough president did reappoint Yvonne Banda, who was with us last term, and we are thrilled to have him back on the team. Thank you. So it's not too late if you want to be part of a CEC. There are still a few seats available on citywide councils, and the DOE is hosting a virtual training on Thursday night. If you missed the session that they had in June, or if you just want a refresher. It's actually hard to believe that we are almost at the start of another school year. There's still so many questions circling around the reopening plan. The DOE is adhering to all state and local health guidelines, but there is still no vaccine for our youngest children. And we know that many of our schools are overcrowded, calling the ability to 3 feet social distance into question. But what we do know is that vaccines will now be required for all staff and teachers, and masks will continue to be used and be required in all school buildings and DOE offices. The mayor and chancellor are still holding firm that there will not be a remote learning option this fall. Given the circumstances, this seems extremely counterproductive, and we continue to hear from families daily that the need for a remote option is great. These last 18 months of living through a pandemic have been difficult and challenging, and there is no argument that our children require the social, emotional, and academic in-person support that they receive from our public schools. They need to reestablish relationships with their classmates and friends, with their teachers, with the outside world, away from their computer screens. Taking this leap of faith is not easy, and for some, especially those that are immunocompromised, it's impossible. Many of our district families and school communities have faced extreme losses, and so to this decision, returning to the building full time, it's that much harder on them. We cannot and will not return to the old way of doing business. We cannot expect our most marginalized families to take on this burden, because things keep changing so rapidly, and we need to remain steadfast for our children. Finding time for self-reflection and intentional planning is critical. We can't keep going on autopilot without serious consequences, which may result in harm to ourselves or to others. We have to work to support each other to ensure that everyone has what they need. Having the desire for change is different than having a commitment to change. And CEC15 is committed to supporting our school communities, whether that be through advocating for a remote learning accommodation or elevating parent voice. The announcements by the governor to force in-person meetings rather than allow for virtual participation has caused a lot of confusion and delay. We know that families want to continue to participate in our meetings and maintain a remote option. We'll be voting on a resolution to support virtual meetings later in the evening. We hope to see a change in the open meetings law in late September. Last year, there was a virtual meeting hosted by DOE almost every week, where they discussed health and safety protocols and various other back to school details. Because of this shift back to in-person meetings, parents nor principals have been receiving information from the DOE as quickly as we would like. This is very unfortunate as the pandemic is still here and we don't know what to expect in these coming 3 weeks. This continued uncertainty can be frustrating and create a lot of fear and anxiety. If you're feeling overwhelmed, please reach out to a friend or family member or even a professional who can support you. We need to stay strong for our families and for each other. In your daily reflections, please think about the choices that you're making each day. Are you educating yourself and understanding biases? We all have them and need to actively work towards breaking them down. Don't be afraid to engage in conversations with your children, family, or with community members about racism or racial justice. Maybe you realized later that you caused some harm. It's important to apologize sincerely and work towards making changes in yourself. We all have to continue to make this collective commitment to our shared humanity and invest more resources around inclusive environments. CEC is actively working towards supporting this district, and later today you'll find out which CEC members will be assigned as your school liaison. This role is critically important as it's a connection of your school to our council. You will have your own assigned advocate and you can meet with them, invite them to your PTA meetings and SLT meetings, share concerns and challenges, and also share happy stories. Your relationship with your CEC school liaison will help us to better serve you. All of our members' names and contact information will be posted on the CECD15.org website later this week. We hope you'll reach out frequently and have your voice heard. We want to help build capacity in this district for partnerships. We worked last month with the President's Council on advocating for a removal of permit fees for use of after-school space in school buildings. We worked with 8th grade families that were having trouble with their high school placements, and we are working to support the PS 295 community over the loss of their diversity mural. The work we do is not always visible, but rest assured we are here for you and will serve you to the best of our ability. Before I close, I want to welcome any guests who are new to CEC meetings. If you are not currently enrolled in a public school 3K or kindergarten program, there's a virtual information session that will be held tomorrow night, August 25th, from 5 to 6 p.m. And then again on August 31st from 1 to 2 p.m. These sessions offer interpretation in many languages, including Haitian Creole, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Bangla, and French. Please share this information with anyone who might be looking for a placement. We will also share this information via email. If you are not already on our mailing list, please write to cec15@schools.nyc.gov. At this time, I just want to ask if any of our members have any questions or have any news they would like to share. Okay, so I will then pass the floor over to our district superintendent, Anita Scott, who is coming to us remotely. We just have to set up the computer, so bear with us a couple of minutes. Superintendent Scott is going to be sharing information with us about the Sunset Park meeting that was held last week. We are all very excited to learn more about this new school coming to District 15. So Anita, let me just work out the volume for the main computer and we will be right with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, good evening, everybody. I'm Anita Scott. For those of you who don't know, it has been my privilege to be the superintendent of District 15 for 12 plus years at this point, and I am very excited to be starting my 13th year as superintendent and to be bringing to you as much information as I can about the meeting last week, but also just a quick review of what the opening mandates are as we know them so far. Next, please. First, I want to take a moment on behalf of the district office staff and myself to welcome back our returning CEC members and welcome our new CEC members and tell you that they are, as I always say, the hardest working CEC in the entire city. They are phenomenal. They care deeply about our children and we are honored to work with them. And so we say thank you for all you do for our students and families. Next slide, please. Welcome back to school year 2021-22. It's hard to believe that we are already entering school year 21-22. Our chancellor calls this the homecoming, and in a lot of ways we are hopeful that it will be, but we are realistic enough to know that we are still in the midst of a pandemic and people are very concerned. Our district has suffered greatly through this pandemic, and we are hopeful that our children will have the opportunity and will return to school full-time and in person on September 13th. Next slide, please. So these are very basic COVID mandates that will be in place as your children return to school. Aside from the walkthroughs and ventilation checks that are already being done, all students, 3K to 12, teachers and school personnel in school buildings will be required to wear masks at all times except when they are eating and during specific sports and performance activities. And if you go on the website, you can get even more information. Social distancing is in effect in alignment with CDC guidelines at 3 feet. Students, as they enter the building, will no longer have temperature checks, as you know they were doing before, but they must still provide their daily response to the COVID question form. Most families do it on their phone, but there will still be paper forms for those who need it. Every school will still have a nurse. I know that there are a lot of questions about what happens if children have to quarantine. And I literally called downtown today to see if I could get some more answers. The protocols for quarantine and asynchronous support procedures will be announced shortly. That's the best answer I have for you. I know it's not very satisfying, but we are in the works and we will have answers for you as soon as we possibly can. Next slide. So I just want to take a moment to talk about the vaccination mandate that Camille talked to. Yesterday, the mayor, the Department of Health and Mental Health Commissioner, and the chancellor jointly announced that all DOE staff, including central, borough, and school-based staff, that's everybody, as well as other service providers, and I'll explain that in a moment, working in school buildings are required to be vaccinated with their first dose of any vaccine completed by September 27th. There is a system which you have to upload your card to so that they have it in the system, and I've already done this. Teachers will be returning on September 9th, students are returning on the 13th, and all DOE staff are resuming their 5-day in-person. So they want to ensure that anybody who works in our schools is vaccinated. The DOE, as always, is prioritizing health and safety for our students, our communities, and our staff. Please note, this is from the chancellor's address. And again, as it says, you have to upload your vaccination to the portal. More information about where you can get the vaccine is available at vaccinefinder.nyc.gov or by calling 877-VAX.4-NYC. There will be consequences for non-compliance. It was made very clear at a superintendent's meeting that they are not playing about this and that this is not wishy-washy. And we are currently in negotiations with the relevant unions to talk about what this will mean for teachers who do not wish to get vaccinated or who have health issues. Next. Okay. I'm going to save questions for the end. I'm happy to answer any questions about the vaccine and the protocols, but I do want to get into the summary of the Sunset Park planning meeting. So a week ago tonight, on August 17th, the Office of Planning, the District 15 team, and the Office of Special Education held an open meeting with the Sunset Park community to begin outreach around the needs and opportunities that new construction of schools is bringing to Sunset Park. There are 4 new sites that are coming online over the course of the next 5+ years. One I don't think you know about, so I'm excited to bring it to you. There is the school that is opening on 36th and 5th. And for those of you who know Sunset Park, you know that it is across from Greenwood Cemetery and diagonally across from the bus depot. Then there is the former Seatown site, also scheduled to open in 2022-23, which is a year from September. And that is going to be the upper grade building for PS 896, which is currently housed in St. Agatha's, which will be the lower grade building. Then there is the former police precinct, which I call the castle, for those of you who don't know, and you will see why in a minute. And it is scheduled to open in year 2023-24. And then lastly, very good news, we are finally getting St. Catherine's, which is on Fort Hamilton Parkway and 40th Street, between 40th and 41st. It is newly acquired and it is currently in use as a COVID testing site, but that will give us the option of opening a new middle school in Sunset Park. So we're very excited about that as well, but that's years of construction away. This is a map that if you look closely at, you can see the little green squares, the little green triangles, excuse me, are the new capacity. And you can see that 671 refers to the 36th Street School, 557 refers to the police precinct, 730 refers to Seatown, and 004 refers to St. Catherine's. Next slide, please. This building is 671. It is the 5th Avenue, 36th Street site. It is opening a year from September. It will have 404 seats. It is an elementary school building, and we're going to talk more about this building because we have an exciting opportunity here. One of the things that you need to understand is when all of this construction began pre-COVID, Sunset Park was much more overcrowded than it is now. And we as a district, in fact, have had a decline in students because of COVID and as a result of COVID, and a lot of difficult situations. However, we are now in a position where we are able to think very creatively and engage with the community very creatively about how we want to use these wonderful spaces. Next slide, please. This is a former sea town. I think it's really beautiful. It reminds me a little of PS 130, and it is located on 8th Avenue and 45th Street. It will be the upper grade school for PS 896, which is only 4 short blocks away. It has 328 school seats. And lastly, again, my favorite, the police precinct, the castle. This is an extraordinary building. It had landmark status, and consequently, the construction is taking longer, but it is going to be spectacular. It is located on 43rd Street and 4th Avenue. And if you could see the other side of this little street, you would see that it is right next to 516, which is literally 20 feet from it and is the former St. Michael's. Very popular. This is scheduled to open in 23-24. It has 332 elementary seats, and we will be talking more about its use as well. Ideally, in my opinion, we would like it to be part of 516 because it makes limited sense to rezone a school that's at 20 feet from another school. But we're open to the community and discussion. Next slide. So when I'm talking about community planning, we are talking about something that is very exciting. The changes in the demand in Sunset Park and the opening of the new buildings gives us an opportunity to engage in comprehensive school planning in Sunset Park. Many of you are aware that we just recently completed the PARP process for rezoning in the sub-district 3. And we have heard from the community in Sunset Park how important it is that they be given the opportunity for such a process. So this is going to be the beginning. We are going to talk about new school planning for building 671, which is opening in a year, and then longer term planning with goals and ideas for how we want this community to benefit from these new sites in partnership with the schools and the community. The goal is for decisions to be jointly made as they were with the rezoning. Next slide, please. So, having said that, I want to take you on a little bit of a thought process. Several years before the pandemic, I met with a group of mothers in Sunset Park. We met at the church at Rectory at St. Michael's, and they talked to me about their concerns for their children and for children in the neighborhood who were on the autism spectrum or special need, had very special needs, and who were assigned because of their needs to D75 schools that were outside of District 15 and required children to travel. And we are very excited because there hasn't been a major push for an heavy-duty autism program in Sunset Park. You know that we have the NEST programs at PS 32, at 442, at 447, at Millennium High School, but we really have, and we have one Horizon class that has gone up through the grades at PS 24, but parents felt that this wasn't enough. And so I came forward to the Office of Planning and said, as long as we're getting this wonderful new school on 36th Street and 5th Avenue, And as long as it is so close to two schools that already have space and are doing wonderful work, PS 24 and 516, would it be possible for us to develop an inclusion school, a real inclusion model? And it was met with absolute respect and interest. And so this is something that we would like to open at that school. The New York City Department of Ed is very much looking at least restrictive classroom environment and providing opportunities for all of our children to learn together, to grow together. We talk about equity, but we have to realize that we want to provide equity for all children, including our special needs kids, including children who have autistic spectrum disorders. And one possible model that we could use at this school would allow students to come in at a very young age, at pre-K, and then gradually move up through a less restrictive environment. They would be going to school with gen ed kids. We would have the AIMS program, which is not in District 15. We would have an additional Horizon program and the NEST program, completely integrated co-teaching ICT going through the grades. And AIMS and ASD Horizon are programs for young children which allow them to grow up through the grades and go from a more restrictive environment where they become more verbal and they learn, and then into less restrictive environment where they learn with their peers. Because of the new structure of this school, this new idea, this is not done anywhere. The New York City DOE recommends that this be a non-zoned option. So it would be open to all the students who would benefit from it. And it would have a specific priority for families living in Sunset Park. So this is very, very exciting to me. It was very well received by our families because this was what they were asking for. And we're very grateful for the opportunity to begin this kind of work. An equity lens looking at special needs is just phenomenal. So we hope that this is something that will be supported. It was very supported at the meeting, and we know that the community is excited about it. Next slide, please. Longer term planning. We want to make sure that we are hearing from all the voices in Sunset Park, as we heard from all the voices in Sub-District 3. And we've had very real success empowering our communities to do outreach using participatory action research with community members in school planning. And we are committed to starting a holistic process this fall using this same PAR approach to community engagement and long-term planning in Sunset Park. The meeting last week was just the first step in beginning this process. And funds have already been allocated for this in Sunset Park through our grants. So we don't have to be fearful that can we afford it? Will it be approved? You need to understand that this is not something that is centrally funded. We are doing this. We are pushing this because we feel that this is so important and we're very excited about it. So funding has already been allocated and we look forward to making this as exciting and engaging as it was in the rezoning process. Next slide. And with that, I throw the floor open to questions and comments.
Just bear with us 1 minute, please. Anita, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
But now I can't hear her. Would you mind speaking? I just want to check the sound.
Are you doing public or
Of
something?
course.
You want to come over here too?
So maybe the parliamentarian could.
What can I say that would be helpful?
No, we're just trying to work out the tech.
All right,
I'm
so
terribly sorry.
There's the parliamentarian.
No, it's fine.
Yvonne is going to take over as parliamentarian. Oh no, please.
Wow, this is an exciting meeting.
Is everybody okay?
It's like Three's Company here.
Yeah. Rules of engagement. When you comment, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include names of children or staff. The public comment period is meant for comments, but as customary, CEC15 wants to hear your comments and concerns and help you get them addressed as needed. When answers cannot be given in session, we will provide them in our weekly e-blast or in an upcoming meeting. Please sign up for CEC15 emails at CEC15 at schools with an S .nyc.gov. Public comments. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every question will be given time. So the best way to get your questions answered is always to write to the CEC at CEC15 at schools.nyc.gov. That's it.
That's
Sorry about that.
Are you okay? Did you hurt you? No. So do any of the council members have a question? You can sort of.
Hi, Superintendent Scott. This is Claudia. How are you? Happy end of summer. Hanging in there. Just for clarity, I know you mentioned the PAR process that is obviously not funded from DOE funds, but from a grant that was received. It seems like the meeting that happened last week was well attended and is a really seemingly good start to community engagement. What is the timeline for initiating these, but also more importantly, as we can see, the challenges with trying to be as inclusive with everyone's voices heard and the challenges of everyone engaging. Is the intention to also continue this in an online method since we already have a case sample for the Red Hook rezoning? Like, is that a possibility to prioritize to make sure that we're, one, being inclusive, two, accessible, and also just realistic for people to engage?
So I agree with you completely. I mean, look at me, I'm on remote. How could I not possibly agree with you? So the way the PAR process worked is it's a several pronged approach. First and foremost, it's outreach to community members where they can literally talk to their neighbors and provide feedback and gain feedback. So that is done in the community. And that doesn't have to be done remotely. It's literally done in supermarkets, in the park, at the laundromat, at the beauty parlor. That's the physical process of PAR, people talking to people. But there is going to be a working group for, first and foremost for the new school. But in addition to that, there will also be a group that will be part of the PAR process, that will be trained in the PAR process, and that can meet remotely and can engage with everybody. So it will be multifaceted. So yes, Claudia, it isn't just going to be people meeting when they can't meet. It will be remote. And in all honesty, it is not one of those things that, first and foremost, because it is covered by the grant, it doesn't fall under necessarily the rules that the governor has. But second of all, because it is not considered like a CEC meeting, although we will come to CEC meetings, we can do things remotely as well. So yes, it will cover everything. Absolutely. And in terms of the timeline, we're looking to start early in the fall. Am I not hearable? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can
Oh,
hear
good.
you.
Okay.
A follow-up question that I don't know if sort of falls in that, but we obviously have really good results on community advocates that have been working really hard for so many years to get these 4 schools to the status that they are, despite their delays. So that's incredibly encouraging and really awesome that we'll be able to continue engaging the community. Is there any updates that you'd be able to provide on the 2 sort of differently distinctive applications regarding charter schools that were also in the immediate area, on top of these 4 additions from the DOE?
I honestly don't know too much about the charter schools because they're handled. I don't know too much about the charter schools because they're handled through the charter school office, but I'm happy to get more information for you.
To find out what's going on with the process. I think they're asking for a camera at this point. But I followed them, I can follow up with them again. This is the first I heard about the RISE request for rezoning.
Yeah.
So I don't know about that, but I'll also make a point to follow up with them on
Sure.
RISE.
There were just a comment that there'll be follow-up on the one that was a Brooklyn Prospect that's on 39th Street between 3rd and 4th, but then there's also currently on the voting schedule for Community Board 7 in September on a rezoning request by Brooklyn Rise, who's currently on 54th and 5th Avenue.
Yes.
To do a rezoning on the area so that they could move west of 3rd Avenue on 43rd Street.
Interesting. I'll get more information.
Thank you.
Meaning they want to rezone meaning they want to rezone
The
a
area.
piece of property.
Yes.
Exactly.
They want to change
The whole
zoning
area
code
west of
on
3rd
the
Avenue
building.
is currently industrial zone, so they're asking Community Board 7 to change the rezoning for that area because they found property on the west side of 3rd Avenue, correct?
I think they only asked for it for that building though.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
okay.
but it is obviously like also, we're talking about one brand new building at 43rd and 4th. We're talking about 516 that already exists there. These are all within like a 5-block vicinity of 2 other schools, 896 and 24. So it seems like an over capacity now of seats. That would
Absolutely.
definitely affect the community, but also these schools and their ability to succeed.
Claudia, let me get clarification. If you do
No.
me a favor, I really would love to get clarity. Is what you're saying that there really is no necessity for this charter because there's so many new schools opening in the district? Yeah, I'm going to talk to the charter school office and see what I can find out. God.
Okay, Nana is coming next.
Hi, Nana. And welcome.
Hi, Anita. How are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks for the report. And I know this topic has been beaten to death, but I just want to take a different twist to it. In terms of children with special need IEP, right? Just in case there's a situation where there's an outbreak in school, right? And, there's a mandatory quarantine. What provisions are there to cater for children that are on IEP that have special needs, right? That have to also abide by that. Is there anything in talks to make sure that they're still going to continue to receive those services when they are at school?
This is one of the things we're waiting to hear, but this is what I can tell you. The expectation right now is that all kids will be in school. And that will be especially useful for kids who have IEPs because they can get their services in school where it's easiest for them to get them and appropriate. if there is a quarantine situation, which is what I'm hearing you say, how would they maintain their services? So I am going to send that request up to Central to find out what their provisions are for that, because they have not discussed it as yet. And so I want to make sure that we do get clarification on that. It's a very good question. The other thing I would say is they have, and I said it in the piece, we have not heard anything about what would happen if a child has to quarantine, for how long that would be, or what the situation is. So I'm sure that impacts it. So let me get the quarantine information and the impact on IEP children for you. And I'll report at the next meeting.
So Camille.
Hi, Anita.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
No.
beautifully.
I can hear you. She's been muted up there.
Oh, okay, great. So, how are you? Thank you. I found this nifty document on the NICET website, which is the Health and Safety Guide for 21-22 school year, which I guess was just posted days ago. I just kind of came across it randomly. And on the page about remote instruction, it says, in case of school closures due to a declared public health emergency, schools must be prepared to provide remote instruction. But then it goes on to say, while the department will not require schools that are open for full-time in-person instruction to provide online or remote instruction, districts may work with students and families to offer remote options if it is deemed to be in the best educational interest of the student. So I noticed in your report, you did write asynchronous learning. Do you have any information you can share?
So it's very interesting. Today, So today I reached out to the Office of the Executive Superintendent to find if she had heard anything. And she said that we were literally awaiting information that will be available within the next day or two. She said she used the term asynchronous learning. I don't know if that means it's going to be remote learning or if it's literally going to be sending home packets. I literally don't know. So the only thing I can say to you is that I am happy to share the information as soon as I get it, but I can't give you information I don't have. And I know that I was at a superintendent meeting yesterday when they announced the vaccines for the mandate. And this question came up and we were told it will be announced shortly.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I did. And then just praise for this ASD model for the new school. I feel like this almost has been my life's work on the CEC to have this come to fruition. And, you know, we've talked for years about how the G&T programs just cannot really provide support for our twice exceptional students. And I've watched families flee the system for private school because they just cannot have their needs met. And, you know, I think that this is going to be a really, really important and pivotal school for our district, but also for the borough and citywide. I really hope that this model will continue. There are so many students, children that are being diagnosed with autism in the early years, in their later years, and you know, there's a lot of comorbidity with ADHD. And so the idea that there'll be social skills curriculum is fantastic. And I'm just really, really excited about this model. And I hope that that the DOE will provide it in other parts of the district, especially districts that are sort of out in the very far distances away, and like so that families won't have to travel the way ours did for so long. Just really grateful for your advocacy in this way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I have to say that when I brought this up and we started talking about it, people were literally on the call in tears because they were so excited and so emotionally involved in how important this is. So we're very grateful.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Do you want to come over here?
Are the council members done asking questions? I think so. Okay.
Well, we have to ask if there's anybody in the audience. Okay.
I should have brought my computer.
I know.
Yeah, I'm pulling from the chat, from the live stream at least, and I didn't bring my computer, but two things that I just saw. One, it seems like there's a lot of concerned parents and family members, school community members overall that would like to have a forum with you or at least discuss what the current status of the PS 295 mural situation is. It seems like there's still lingering questions that people have, and so they're requesting some level of transparency for timeline progress, really what happened, but also maybe meet with you directly to see how this can be resolved or just
Sure. So
ameliorated and in the future. I'll start with that one. I'll have to go back to what also said in the chat.
Okay, so I want to be very clear about this because there's two pieces to this that are very important. When I attended the SLT meeting at PS 295, it was one of the things that was promised, that I promised personally, was that I would call this in for investigation. And I did that the very next day. We called it into the Office of Equal Opportunity, and we called it into the Office of the Special Investigator's Office. So in terms of what actually happened, who did what, first of all, in all honesty, I don't know who painted over the mural. I don't. Having said all of that, I can't discuss that part of it. What I can discuss is what's going to happen going forward. And I want to be very clear and I want to be very honest that we are not saying, oh, well, we are working on so many different levels right now. I have been in conversation with the Office of the Arts, and they have been in conversation with Groundswell to talk about when we can reconstruct the mural and how to go about it. That's one piece. We are definitely going to make that happen. I cannot talk to Groundswell, but we have somebody in my office who's reaching out to them. We are going to bring in, through our grant and from the outside, people to support mediation and support for the school, both 295 and 443, separately and together. We're going to bring in, it is called the New York Peace Organization. We're going to pay for it. They do mediation, they bring people together, and then we are going to continue the dialogue all year long, working with, it's a very long title, but you'll know when I get to the end what I'm talking about. It is
I'm
called,
sorry, Anita, something happened with the monitor. The whole thing went I'm sorry, go ahead. You were talking about the New York Peace Organization.
thank you. So we're bringing in the New York Peace Organization to do mediation both separately and together with the two schools in the building, to bring the community together, to bring the principals together, to bring us together as a community, and so that people can begin to heal. And then we are going to continue the work with the diversity teams from both schools using the work of Courageous Conversations with the organization from Glenn Singleton. And that's called Beyond Diversity. So all of this is going to come out of our grant. All of this is going to be ongoing work. This does not include the regular work that we will be doing with the District Equity Congress. This is not including all of this, the materials that are going to be provided to schools for CRSE. This is designed specifically to support 295 and 443 in growing and making people feel safe and secure, and knowing that the school is there for them and is there for the entire community. I can't say any more than that. I wish I could say more, but believe me, these are the things that are already in the works. We definitely will reconstruct the mural as it was, no change. And so all of these things are happening. Please, I sent an email to today. I know that the school itself had a lot of questions about the basic stuff. They have a new parent coordinator who is bilingual and will be able to support the school really well, which is wonderful. They will be beginning the search for a new AP this year. They have a funding line for it. So many of the things that concern the parents are being addressed. And we're going to go forward. That we can talk about constantly. My wonderful Gina, who is the diversity coordinator, will be having a meeting with the teachers as was promised. We are not doing it until school opens because I want teachers to be able to come and not have to feel that we infringed on their summer vacation, especially the last 2 weeks. But we will definitely have the meeting. And just so you know, Gina has been out of commission a little bit anyway, because she had COVID. So she is recovering. She's fine, thank God. And she will be conducting the meeting. I will have nothing to do with it. The teachers will be comfortable in talking to Gina. We are more than happy to have the Peace Organization do a forum for families. I think it would be wonderful. And I think that this will really make a difference. So please know that this is in the works, and we will plan it with the community so that they can come in in a time frame that works for them.
Thanks, Anita. I'm just, that seems great on paper, but I'm also just sensing from the chat that a lot of people are deeply hurt. So I think really feeling that, being incredibly conscious of the transparency that's needed to mend those relationships and rebuild that trust with the families, that really caught them off guard. It's surprising to me as a parent that, you know, we claim a lot of diversity and inclusion that didn't feel in line at all with what we've said that we stand for. So it really, I think the parents, especially in that community and the surrounding, need to understand that they're being heard, that there's something to be remedied, and to also address their very valid concerns. I'm going to pull two more things that I just saw in the chat, and I think this is also for everyone at CEC. How can we support a remote school option in Nepal? And I think this is just a continuation of Nana's comment of just how do we ensure that all families are being supported in their needs, inclusive of a remote school option, contingency plans for families that need it, that have valid concerns about the safety. And then linked to that, is there a commitment from DOE Central for procuring or securing masks that are, KN95s or KF94s that would be safer for families and students to use, specifically smaller sized masks? Is that really up to individual schools to try to procure for their community, or is there support or funds that could be supported from the DOE to provide those for families?
You know, I'm going to start with the mask question first, and then I'll get to the remote piece. I actually am not an expert on K95s, so I don't know, but I do know that the PPE, which includes masks and gloves and cleaning equipment and sanitizer and all of those pieces, are not funded from the school's budget. They are funded from Central. I do not know, and this is something that I would have to talk to an expert on. I do not know about N95s in young children. I would have to find out about that. I just don't know. I'm sure that it's okay, and I'm sure that there's a way to do it. I will raise it at Central. I'm going to speak to Kevin Moran about this because he's the expert, and then I will get more information about this. But please do not feel that the families and the schools have to pay for masks. A lot of schools have actually, a couple of schools, not a lot, but a couple of schools have actually bought the school-based with your logo on it, masks for all their kids. And I know that there are always masks in supply, but I don't know about N95s, and I'm happy to find that out for you. In terms of remote instruction, the city and the mayor and the chancellor have been very adamant about they want kids to return to school. And I have to say, and this is the only thing I can say, is that there is a real need, and even Camille was mentioning it, that our kids, for their own emotional needs, need to be with other kids, need to be in a school environment. I was on a forum for CB6. I think about this all the time because I have grandchildren who were in a remote setting for a year and who will be going back shortly with our kids in a different part of the state. And they really talked about the needs of children to socialize, the need of children to be together, the need of children to interact. And people have just anecdotally told me how some of the kids are much more nervous than they were before. They're anxiety ridden about going near another person. I can tell you a story. When I was with my grandchildren, we were at the beach, and another child came over, and usually they're very gregarious, but I was watching them and they were a little cautious. It was the first time I had ever seen that. And so we all know we want our kids back in school, but we also all know that we want them to be safe. And I understand about families who have gone through so much and lost so many people that it's terrifying. This is a terrifying time. All I can say is that I will certainly find out about the N95s, but the fact that every teacher now is mandated to be vaccinated, the fact that every child and every teacher will still be wearing a mask, the fact that there is still going to be social distancing, this should make it better for families. We have spent the past 2 weeks of August, 3 weeks of August, working on making sure that there is sufficient space, that there are desks and chairs and everything that is needed. Schools are getting walkthroughs. Some schools are being visited by space management to make sure everything that the Department of Ed can do to make this happen is happening. As of now, I would be lying, and I'm not, I would never do that. My personal feeling, as well as what I've heard from Central, is that there is not going to be a remote option. As of now, that might change. I don't know. But I know that I do not want to say to you, yeah, sure, they're going to do it, when at this point it's doubtful. So please, I will find out about the masks, but do not feel that you have to buy masks for your kids. The school has masks. N95s, I will find out about.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, Antonia.
My question is, the Summer Rising program is sort of the only program that has functioned in the time that we've had the Delta variant. And they have used this multi-tiered, layered approach to protection. And so I'm wondering if how many cases there have been in the Summer Rising program, what kind of spread has there been in that program? And I will.
So I don't have like a case number for you. I can't say this is it, but I will tell you this. As superintendents, every time a school reports a case, we get an email with that the principal gets. So I have a running school archive of it. We did not get a lot of cases over the summer. We really didn't get a lot of cases. Please bear in mind, though, that a lot of summertime was spent outdoors too. I think statistically as a whole, and I'm not a statistician on this, but statistically as a whole, in schools where they're doing, in school districts where they're doing what our district is doing, and I mean district as not just District 15, but collectively in the city, with the masks, with the social distancing, we have been very, very fortunate and very protective. I personally would very much like to see a vaccine for children. I'm hoping that they will come out with one shortly. I'm praying that they will come out with one shortly, but I do think that every precaution that can be taken at this point is being taken. We did not see a lot of cases in the summer. I was pleased about that. The summer program ran pretty well. And you know, kids in the summer, I'm going to say in all honesty, I don't know how much social distancing went on in the yard, but I know that the schools have done some amazing things in terms of, and are going to continue doing amazing things, because I've spoken to every single school individually. And they are using their outdoor space. Many of them are eating outside so that the kids are not indoors when they're eating. Many of them are just scheduling small groups for eating. Many of them are having classes outside when they can, when the weather is nice. We're going to start school during a time when the weather is still good. So we'll see what happens. I wish I could give you like a hard and fast, like, yeah, everything's going to be fine, or yeah, oh my God, oh my God. It's neither. It's going to have to be wait and see, and pray and do what's right for children and support each other in this. This is probably the worst thing that any of us will live through. And I'm hopeful that it's the worst thing that we will live through. And we just have to support each other and support our kids, and know that for some families, this is much harder than other. It has created situations where people have been blamed for it. It has created a situation where all of our fears come to the forefront. It sometimes, to me, truly feels like a Stephen King novel. But all I can say is we will get through this together, and we will support each other. And if I hear anything about a remote option, I promise I will bring it back to you. But as of now, I can't say that.
Hi, Anita. I think this is going to be our last question from the chat, but people are asking for clarification on the mandated testing, like the 3 assessments for the year. And
Oh, okay.
you know,
Happy
we
to talk to
know
that.
that does not fall into social emotional learning, and the hours and hours and hours that are spent administering that test, grading that test, you know, that's
It's not
really.
It's not like that. Let me clarify. So, because you're 100% right. And people are seeing this as another state test, that's not what these are. First and foremost, for those of you who are panic stricken that your little ones are going to be assessed, can I please assuage your fears and tell you that this assessment is a reading diagnostic. It is done one-to-one. If you've ever had your child do a running record with a teacher, it's very
I'm sorry,
similar to
Anita,
that.
the screen went out again.
Okay. So in District 15 and pretty much across the city, the K-2 option that many of our schools are in fact doing, K-5, these are not designed to be state exams that have to be graded. They are not long-term, they are diagnostics. What do I mean by that? They are a one-to-one assessment to determine a child's skill needs. You've heard me say this a dozen times, so forgive me for being incredibly redundant. When you take your child to the doctor, if they just say they don't look sick, you're not going to bring your child back to that doctor. You want them to take their temperature. You want them to listen to their heart. You want them to maybe take their blood pressure or do a blood test. This is what this is designed to be. If you've ever had your child do a running record with a teacher, that's what a cadence is. So when you hear them talk about a cadence, it used to be called dibbles. And it is literally a one-to-one assessment that determines a child's phonics needs in terms of foundational literacy and then some comprehension needs. For kids in grade 3 to 5, this is done online. So there is no time spent marking. It is not prepped. It is just a run. And it is, again, designed to show which areas of need there are. No child, and if you find this is happening, please let me know. But this is not a grading policy. This is not like a state test where they're going to get a 3 or a 4 or a 1. This is so student specific and saying this child needs this, that this is really what it is. It is done 3 times a year because when you are in a process of trying to improve a child's skills, then you assess as a pretest, you do a benchmark at some point, and you do an end of the year to see where they are and what they've grown in. And you want that as a mother because you want to know where your kid is and what your child needs. That's all this should be. In terms of other things, the state exams, which I'm sure are going to come back, that's a whole different ballgame. But these are not designed to be that. And the city has very specifically, I'm thrilled that they went with Acadians because it is dibbles, because it is child specific and not my child against the world. So please don't panic about this. This is not another standardized test for your child to worry about.
So would you say that as far as the reading comprehension goes, is that just a similar process to, for example, what FNP would use?
It's
like
similar but more detailed. That's
I'm
all
sorry,
it is.
the sound went out.
It's very similar to FNP, yes. The one that they're doing online, see, for the little ones, you have to go one-to-one on this. You have to. I did it. There are people who are as old as me who remember something called E-class. And this is a variation on that. And that's where Dibbles came from originally, I think. But the whole point is it allows teachers to assess letter recognition. It allows teachers to assess sound symbol connection. It allows teachers then to be able to assess word recognition, things like that, very specific to the child. That's Fontes and Pinnell like. It is. This is just more detailed than that. And it doesn't require as much subjectivity as teachers Fontes and Pinnell did and E-class did, to be honest. When you get to grades 3 to 5, the kids can do an online assessment because they're doing it themselves. It's the same thing as just going in and answering some questions and literally doing, will give you the same kind of results, and you will be able to see what kids need. The other thing is that it will help schools to say, for example, I'm going to use an early childhood example because I was an early childhood teacher. If I look at my second grade and I notice that my second grade is still having problem as a whole grade with digraphs, what does that tell me? It tells me that my teachers have not been trained properly in digraphs to teach the kids. It's not the kids' fault. They didn't learn it. So then I, as a principal, I'm responsible to make sure that I'm providing the appropriate professional development for my teachers. if I am looking at my upper grades and I notice that they are having a problem, let's say in math with fractions, which is a pivotal concept, how am I going to make sure that the kids have the right understanding of fractions, which is then going to be needed for them to understand algebraic equations, which is then going to be needed for them to be able to take AP calculus down the road. So all of these things are connected, but we have to do it on a diagnostic level. So schools can figure out what they need and kids can be supported individually in what they need. If you are at your school and somebody says, oh, my kid got a this on this, as if it were a test, call me, I want to know about it. But this is supposed to be incredibly diagnostic. It is not that kind of a grading system. So that's what I want you to understand.
Okay, I'm sure we'll learn more about this as the year progresses, and maybe we can even invite somebody from the testing.
Absolutely,
vendor.
absolutely.
Steve, she's talking. Sorry, we lost the sound again. Anita, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and for the presentation. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, we will be posting Superintendent Scott's presentation to our website, hopefully tomorrow. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Scott. Okay, so we are going to move on in the agenda to, we had talked about this in our last meeting, a support of a letter from Sunset Park parents that advocating for universal elementary after-school programming. And in our last meeting, we read the letter aloud and pretty much all agreed, but we did not have a quorum at that time to be able to vote. So we have a quorum now. If anybody has any questions about the letter, now would be the time to ask. I do not see any questions, so then I will make a motion to vote to support. We read it at the last.
We read it verbatim?
We can read it.
I mean, we don't have to. We don't have to. Okay. All right.
We posted it. I mean, it's.
Okay, good. Do we want to solicit comments from the public?
Dear friends on Facebook, if you're on our email list, you would have received the link to this letter. I would like to solicit public comment from our live stream feed at this time. Do we have any comments? Okay, great. So then I will make a motion to support this Sunset Park Universal Elementary After-School Programming letter. Do we have a second? Okay, Antonia seconded. And we can do a roll call vote. Okay.
Camille?
I agree.
Antonia, yes, I support the resolution. Tia?
Yes.
Claudia? Yes. Vincent?
Yes.
Ina? Not
She's
here.
absent.
Nana Poku? Alfred?
Yes.
Joseph? And Yvonne?
Yes.
Okay, so the letter.
Okay, so
sorry,
that's 9.
passes unanimously.
9 votes of yes, and that passes unanimously. We will contact, we will get in touch and post that letter on our website. And thank you so much for your support. Okay, so next on the agenda is the CEC vote on a resolution to support virtual meetings, also discussed at our last meeting. This is this would be a letter going to New York State Legislature to ask them to allow virtual meetings in the open meetings law. I'm not sure that we did read this one.
I don't think we did.
Yeah. So I will quickly read this letter, resolution in support of virtual meetings in open meetings law. Whereas the open meetings law that requires citywide community education councils, school leadership teams, and district leadership teams to hold in-person public meetings. Whereas CCECs, SLTs, and DLTs are part of the New York City public school governance structure intended to enable parents to not only observe important decision-making processes at the school and district level, but also to provide comments and feedback on issues that are important to students and families. Whereas, as permitted under Executive Order 202.1, these bodies have held public meetings remotely since mid-March 2020. Whereas attendance has increased dramatically in many meetings since they were made remote. Whereas meetings are easier to attend remotely for parents with younger children and children with disabilities because of the relief from childcare, transportation, and specialized care. Representation of these vulnerable groups becomes more likely in a virtual setting. Whereas more families are able to engage in school governance through virtual access since the New York City Department of Education has provided free internet-enabled devices to families who need them. Whereas remote meetings allow disability-related reasonable accommodations such as closed captioning and chat functions for communication for individuals with disabilities to participate in the meeting or program. Whereas remote meetings have also allowed for more accommodations for those families requiring translation and interpretation services in order to support their inclusion in discussions related to our communities. I'm so sorry. Whereas the ease with which remote meetings can be recorded and disseminated throughout the community has increased the inclusion and feedback of families whose employment and other responsibilities might have prevented their in-person involvement before. Whereas transparency in the decision-making of school communities is more important than ever in building confidence in the safety of our schools, and eliminating remote access to planning meetings erodes that confidence. Whereas the New York City Department of Education, in its efforts to include and empower more parents, supports this request. Therefore, be it resolved that CEC15 requests an amendment to open meetings law, allowing CCECs, SLTs, and DLTs the option to continue meeting virtually, which would greatly enhance their ability to engage with community members and provide greater transparency and public feedback. So I will just ask one more time for public comment from the live stream feed. Okay, thank you. Questions, anybody? So I will make a motion to vote on this resolution in support of virtual meetings in the open meetings law. Okay, Yvonne seconded that motion.
Camille Cazzaretti?
I approve.
Antonia, yes. Tia?
Yes.
Claudia? Agree. Vincent?
Yes.
Ina, not here. Nana? Alfred?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
And Yvonne?
Yes.
Okay, so that's nine in favor. Okay, great. So we will put the heading on this and send that off to the state legislature as soon as possible.
Now you have a general public
Okay.
comment period.
So if anybody from the stream has a further comment, we could take more comments now? No? Okay. Going once.
I guess you're the
Okay.
only audience member, right? You're the only member of the public.
Okay, great. So then,
I move to adjourn.
okay, Antonia has moved to adjourn this calendar meeting at 8:06.
6 minutes late.
Okay, great. We are 6 minutes behind schedule. So then I will do a we'll do a quick roll call for our business meeting. Should I stop this frame and then open it
I
again?
think you should just
Leave it as one whole thing.
And hold on, let me just organize my minutes here for a second. Okay.
So we're going to move into the business portion of this meeting, which includes a conversation about school liaison assignments, just a vote on our meeting dates for the year, and a vote to approve our CEC budget. And then we are going to discuss a resolution for remote learning accommodations, and we are also going to discuss the adoption of a District 2 resolution.
All right, Neil, are you here?
Present.
Antonia, I'm here. Tia? Here. Claudia? Here. Vincent? Here. Ina, no. Nana Koku? Alfred? Here. Joseph? Here. And Yvonne. Okay, great.
Okay, great. So now I sent around this Google form for you all to fill out, and there's still a couple of spaces here. So Vincent and Alfred, I think that you did not fill this out, and then Claudia, I think, okay. So I am going to step away from the computer momentarily.
Basically, what we were trying to do, and not really stable, but like in the best case scenario, we would choose.
Let's go see.
We're just
Yeah, all
there,
right.
cooking it away.
Like a DJ.
Oh, yeah. Nobody here.
Steve, do you want to talk about that a little bit, guidance on not choosing your
Good. One of the reasons, right, one, that's good to know what other schools are doing. Probably where that school has to be on.
Watch out, watch out.
I'm just.
And see what the cost is.
Don't escape.
You're not interacting with principals, students at the school. Usually why we advise
I also personally found it helpful here with our liaison for my side, and just found it overall helpful to have another insight of what was, what the big concerns that we as parents saw. So I was able to maintain my role as a parent, and then having like another thing, CPC advocate, also advocating for either Dave's concerns or also having other, work streams that were happening behind those. It also just felt like we maintaining like a parent role. So it was like,
Right. That's also so the ones in Sunset Park are this is the middle school, right? This is the middle school. Well, the one up what's left. And then the sub-district 3 is where that story is now. Yes. Yeah, like 2 blocks. Right. Well, this is 2, actually, because in the fall, what we're going to do is actually, yeah, these are just.
There's 2, there's an upper and
No, no, it's just because it's too low.
It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
I wrote them a letter asking.
But what we need is a TV camera.
A crew, we need a TV crew.
Yeah. With long microphones. What do we use? So we don't have to use four computers.
Well, I'm just doing this because I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Keeping track of what's going on. I don't really my computer's not on. It does seem we need two computers at that.
Because I was wondering if we can put a small drive with a camera, then we could work, and the computer and the camera would be outside, so we don't have to deal with camera and computer. We're just thinking, and we'll have sound.
Yeah.
So when we look for we do the same. Because I wasn't in the last meeting. You guys went to PS88. In every school that we go, we're going to have to do the same thing.
And here, at least, we figured out how to view it. But at MSAA, they have and there was a sound on how to do it. I don't remember how it
How did you do this training?
And for some reason there wasn't feedback. I don't know why that was.
The return.
I don't think
Lisa. Remember that we were interviewed last time and we were talking. And then I was in the car, right? I went to drive it. So you're gonna slow, you're gonna stop, and we move, and we just went to a wreck. 6 cars, 3 on this side, 3 on this side.
and you were going to DC.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I mean, 2 cars were in the opposite direction, and the other 4 were on the side of both sides of the highway, and we were going in the middle of the
Traffic.
oh my God.
It's the worst. That is the last time we were in a car accident. After we left DC. And we were going south on 95.
It's horrible.
My husband fell asleep in the car. That was part of the problem. We were in heavy traffic and we were just going real slow.
Yeah.
And he kind of just like nodded off.
Second.
And he was the person in front of him, but that person put himself in neutral, and his car went shooting forward into the next car. And I was like, I'm never driving with Ford again. Like, it's too exhausting.
Yeah, no.
But you've driven all over.
Well, it's too.
But your wife drives, right?
Yeah.
I don't drive. So he has to do all this.
This long trip I did, she drove because I was interviewing, but the other one I did. I drove most of it. It was a long trip. And by that traffic in Virginia, I remember going from Arlington to Fredericksburg. And it's like 37 miles. But it was like 3 hours. Because it was, and then after the third hour, like I get to a point, nothing, no cars. And I was like, what happened? Why we were 3 hours sitting in this thing?
Because like it's an urban area and they don't have any mass transit.
Yeah, I don't.
So everybody can
You can use my battery if you want.
What?
You can use my battery if you want. So you can hold
Oh,
it.
right.
So you can hold it in your hand. Oh.
Yeah. I'm just trying. Yeah.
We'll just read off these names so that everybody has the record. So Yvonne Banda is going to take PS1. Joe Alexander will have PS10 and K280. Alfred, I'm going to say this wrong, D. Ingenis? No? Yes? Oh, cool. Okay, cool. PS15, Camille, I'm going to take PS24. PS29, Yvonne Banda. Ina is not here, but we have temporarily assigned her to PS32. And Antonia will have PS38. Oh, wait, we're, okay. And then, I messed this up again. Because I didn't realize Yvonne had his name here, but then we had crossed it out. And PS39. Nana, how many schools did you have?
5.
You have 5?
Wow.
That's
Too many.
Okay, then.
Yeah, that is too many.
Believe me, you don't want 5.
It's 3.
Alfred, would you be able to do PS39 since you have those schools that are in the rental bill agreements? And so then that 39 is a DOE building, right? We're not renting that from anybody. Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Alfred.
Taking 10 back from me, right?
39. You didn't have 39, did you? Yeah, okay.
No, 10 is fine.
Okay. And then Claudia will have MS51. Ina, although she's not here, we've assigned her to PS58. Hopefully she's okay with that. And then Joe will have MS88. Antonia, PS94. Claudia, PS107. Alfred, PS118. Nana will have PS124 and PS130. Oh, by the way, the PS130, it's the standalone building that you would be assessing when we do the building part of it, because Yvonne will do the newer building that has 839 in it. Like they even though it's the same school, like all of the, like everything to do with the school, you would have 130. But when we do the building assessments, you would have the older building, and then Yvonne will take the newer building for that, just because those sort of are like the buildings themselves. Okay, Vincent is going to have 136, Nana 146, Claudia 154, Joe 169, Vincent 172, Antonia 230, Alfred 261, Tia 295. Again, Ina, we have assigned her to PS 321, and Joe 442, Tia 443, MS 447, Camille, and IS 497, Camille. PS 516 will be Tia, HS 656, Camille, and then 676, Claudia, MS 821, Vincent, and 839 will be Yvonne, and 896, Alfred.
Did I not take enough? I have 3.
You?
I just have 3.
You have
230.
two. I mean, once we get our borough president person, we're gonna have, so, you know, like the people who have 5 and 4 might end up. You? No, Al has 15. You have 124, 130, 146. Wait, didn't you have something else? Okay, I mean, we might have to resort again anyway, because we're still waiting for one more person, but just at least so there's a point of contact. So if there's something's going on at the school and they want to. No, well, it's not totally Red Hook. It's like the border of Red Hook and Carroll Gardens.
So can I have
Yeah.
15? You said I just heard.
I think so. You want to talk to Alfred about it?
Do I have 169?
169, Joe. That could be a better option for you since there's so many ELL students there. I'm sorry.
How many schools you have?
Oh, you do?
How many schools you have? You want to swap one with me?
Oh, yeah, he does have too many schools. Okay, so then why don't you take that too?
Yeah. Do I have a leave out?
Yeah, because you have, like, these guys are in the same building, and then this, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Even though it's 4 schools, it's 3 buildings.
Okay.
So the buildings are, you know, the buildings are the things that we need to sort of do right away, because that, we have to submit that. So, yeah. 1, 2, this one, sorry, 3, and 4. This is the duplicate, because this doesn't count. So it's 821.
I see.
172, 169, and so these guys are in the same building. And then these elementary schools. These are in the same building.
I see.
This is on the downstairs floor, and this is on the upstairs floor. And then you know where these are. This is across from the police precinct.
On the 7. Oh yeah, on the 7. It's 40
Like in
and
the
7.
20s.
It's 40 and 7. 40 and 7.
What is it?
40th Street and 7.
Oh, 40.
I think it's on 40th
This
Street. This one.
Yeah. No, this one is on 4th Avenue.
Yeah, sorry. 40 and 40. 4 Avenue.
I thought this was in the 30s.
It's on the 4. I think it's on 4.
Okay, well,
So
I will show you guys how to find all of this information on these school buildings if you don't already know how to do that, but let's do that at the next meeting or by email because we are grossly behind schedule now, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Let me just take a picture of this one.
Yeah, I'm going to enter it in the computer and I'll share it with you.
So once everybody, could everybody have an interest in PS1?
Oh, so just go talk to Al about it. And yeah.
Maybe I just changed it right now.
You might have chosen it, but I don't remember. You can look in the Google thing. You'll see the changes there.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just ask him if he's okay with swapping with you. I'm sure he will be. Okay, so the next thing is vote on the meeting dates, which we had already discussed the meeting dates, and collectively we decided that we were going to combine the November and December business and calendar meetings. So there's just one meeting in November with both meetings and one meeting in December with both meetings. And then the paperwork is over there, but if everybody is okay with these dates, we can just vote to approve. And I just want to get something on the calendar because all the schools are going to be scheduling their PA meetings, and we want to make sure that we give them enough time to come to us if, we want to work with them. So I want to make sure that we give them enough notice of when we're meeting, and of course, Superintendent Scott. Okay, so should I quickly read off these dates or? No, we don't.
Does
Okay.
anybody have an issue with the dates? No, okay. Then
I mean, they're just the basic dates by the bylaws.
approve the calendar.
Okay, great.
Okay, I have a second.
Okay, on a second. Okay, just in the interest of time, there's still 9 of us here and all in favor of the calendar. In the future, we'll do roll call for these votes, but because there's Vincent, you're voting for this. Oh, you're still checking?
Yeah, I'm still checking.
Okay. If there's a complete disaster here, just let me know tomorrow. Did you look at it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, all the papers are over. Or here, just take this if you want.
Okay, all right.
Okay, great. All right, so we have 8 in favor, and Vincent is still figuring it. Oh, Alfred, are you okay with the dates?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we didn't change anything from our last discussion. Everything's the same that we discussed in July.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Anything else?
Okay. Yeah, just let us know as soon as you can if there's a problem. Okay, so then I'll go with 9 yes. Okay, so that's approved. And then the budget. Okay, where did the budget go? So we have $25,000 for this year's budget. Steve, can you confirm that? Okay, we got a confirmation. And right now, so we'll have a lot of opportunities to modify this budget, but we need to get something into the system so that we can start spending some of the money. And we'll have until late February to make any final modifications, and we can change this every single month if it's necessary. We just have to, propose it and vote. So what is on the budget is based on our spending of last year. We made some modifications because we were really happy with our parent and student workshops and wanted to put more money into those, which we are allowed to do remotely. So, we could do that if we want to. So $5,000 would go on the procurement card, which would inevitably be held by our administrative assistant, and she could use that as if it's a credit card. It actually is a credit card. And the administrative assistant is legally responsible for that money, but that money cannot be spent without the approval of the council. So it's just a way to allow us to pay for things in a quicker way rather than submit it to the DOE, get a purchase order, wait for the vendor to get paid and things like that. We put on the side $3,000 for member reimbursements and meeting expenses. So if anybody took a taxi here, you are allowed to get a reimbursement for that. If you are driving, you can take some of your auto expenses based on mileage. Your Metro card, you can get reimbursed. If you needed childcare, that can be reimbursed. Other things that don't necessarily relate to the meeting, like say, for example, you wanted to buy a book, like on education, you could do that. If you wanted to attend a seminar, and say there was a $45 fee to attend the seminar, you can do that. So there's things that you can get a reimbursement for, but there is a maximum per month. And if you don't use it, it can roll over into the next month. And Steve?
Yeah, well, it rolls over if you can never claim more than $125 per month.
Right.
So if you don't fill it out one month, you still fill it out the next month, so 3%. So if you can June, you can fill one out for July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, all the way up. There's no time limit for you to fill out.
Yeah, but I mean, in the best case scenario, you're just submitting as, within the month as it's going. Otherwise, it makes it harder for the treasurer and kind of backs up the paperwork at the DOE level. Okay, so $4,000 for office supplies, which we may or may not use. We know we need printer ink right now. Antonia printed all of these papers at her house, and I printed all of them the last time. So, and we have $4,000 for parent workshops, and we have $4,000 for student workshops, $1,000 for communication apps and templates, which we are exploring MailChimp or something else like MailChimp if we don't go with MailChimp. But right now, MailChimp's on the table. And then $4,000 for other expenses. There's a code, other expenses. It's just, we're going to vote on this again anyway. So that was like a limbo kind of code. So that equals 25,000. And does anybody have any thoughts, concerns, edits, additions? Okay.
Just a question on both other expenses.
Yeah.
So that's the point where there's some flexibility around that, just in case funds are not used. You can.
Yeah, we'll move it. Yep. Yep.
So whether we want that to be bigger or?
Could be anything. I mean, we kind of just have to see where we're going with things, like what happened with the parent-student workshops last year is that Claudia was my partner in the work, an amazing, amazing partner. And we created a bid sheet and sent it out to the public, and we got a lot of responses. I mean, if only we could have like offered every single one of them. One was better than the next, and it was very hard to decide. We created like a rubric, and you know, we were being very conscious about the spending. So we were able to, like we had a goal. We were going to do 8 workshops for this amount of money, and we were able to do that in the budget, but it was pretty hard to do it, but everything worked out and it was great. So now we're just saying like, let's double that so we can, you know, have more. And also we only had those workshops in the last 2 months of the year. And now we're thinking to just, you know, try to do it the whole year.
I'll say just like, even if it's great that we can budget for right now, but I really feel like it, like today we're watching in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Like that level of like access, especially if we can, that sort of don't come from funds elsewhere, it really felt nice to like engage in community that way and like see the overall impact of that. That's it. May not seem significant, but I think we do have a large impact and visibility engagement in Spanish.
Yeah, that bird watching in Spanish was pretty amazing. And then they even received a monocle. Yeah, so it was just a really special kind of event.
Like, you know, we have them recorded, so hypothetically, could be available, like it was assessment on parent security, online security.
Yeah.
That could get available, otherwise, like, you know, sort of own that section.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a really great event on internet safety and learned how to modify your modem. I don't know what these things are, but like you can sort of like protect your yeah, through your server. Like you don't have to change all the settings in your computer. You could just change it like right at your main box. And so it was like, and it wasn't even that hard to do. Everybody needs to learn how to do that.
Let me just ask, because I don't know, how did they get paid? Did they submit?
Steve helped us. We had bids for everybody. He created purchase orders. We had to do it through the DOE, and we could only work with DOE approved vendors. So they had to be a vendor, and then they get paid right after they do.
Stipulation on because of our time frame, like hypothetically, no, if it had to be a vendor requirement. Okay.
Yeah, and like becoming a vendor isn't that hard.
Which actually is also then helpful because they've been vetted in some other way,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be able to do or that
It's not too hard for vendors to apply these DOE vendors, so if you apply to them recent, like I don't know how long, the only stipulation being, I don't know how long it will take for it to be approved. DOE.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, I was saying that this is just like the budget for today, and we can easily change it. Yep.
Maybe you guys consider the next meeting is the amount of food card.
Yep.
Because it will only be accessible by your AA.
Which we hope to have an AA in the next month. Please, please.
The $3,000 of member reimbursement, I just keep an eye on, because if everyone claims the reimbursement,
Yeah.
that's $16,000.
Yep.
So obviously maybe people won't, as in previous, but just, I wouldn't spend all the rest of the money and then get in a position
Right. No, I mean, I think it's going to take us. Yeah. Yeah. And then just an FYI for our new members, last year we had 9,000 something that we did not spend, and we were able to give that to the district for Superintendent Scott to use. And I believe that she was able to purchase headphones for many of the students. And then in the year before, we gave like almost 10,000 to Central DOE, and they merged a bunch of money that CECs had that were leftover funds, and they purchased book libraries for all of the shelters. So for all of the shelters that, you know, students were living in, they were able to give them like hundreds of books. So it was really nice.
Are you saying that 5,000 is too much and 3,000?
Yes, that's what he was saying. No, he's saying 3,000 is not enough.
3,000 is not enough.
Yeah, 5,000, like really, like if you asked us for the advices to go to the card, it was $1,000. That's how it's accessed and used, and how it's supposed to be used for large purchases.
Yep.
But, you know,
I mean, do you guys want to just make it 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000 down the line?
Yeah.
Let's just do that, because like already 2 months have passed anyway, and we don't have an AA yet. So thank you, Steve. Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass the budget with the amendment.
Yes.
For a $4,000 on the P card and $4,000 of member reimbursement.
Right. Okay, great. So oh wait, you made a motion to approve. I'll second that.
Okay, so Camille?
Yes.
Antonia, yes, I approve. Tia? Oh God, is that roach? I don't know. It's a little bit roachy. It's a little roach.
Here, I'm putting you on here. Yeah.
It's crawling towards
It's summer.
Anyway, Tia, do you support that budget?
I approve.
Okay. Claudia? Vincent, do you support the budget? Okay. Okay. Nana, do you support the budget? Do you vote yes for the budget? Okay. Alfred?
Sorry, I was supposed to go on, sorry.
No, sorry, Joseph?
Yes.
And Ivan?
Yes.
Okay, great. It passes.
Nine votes yes. Okay, great. Send Carol a draft of those. Okay, so old business. In our last meeting, we were talking about a resolution to support a remote learning accommodation. And did you guys have any thoughts about, you know, what we heard today from Superintendent Scott? Or I did not even get a chance to share this with you guys because I just like, have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
So this is, yeah, it's on the New York State Education Department website, and I just like randomly came across it. But it is 21 pages of, sorry, that's my personal stuff. 21 pages of health and safety guidelines for New York State City schools. So, you know, the DOE is basically working off of this document. And
Passing on the responsibility of
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yes.
seems to me that
Yes, it's basically like,
go
right.
back and forth and no one wants to take responsibility of it. Hey, this student will start for it, but this business will be like, hey, we can make a decision. And I think that we just have to push harder. I mean, there's a need. I don't know if anyone saw, Place NYC had a survey. They actually filled out a survey. So they surveyed more than 5,000 parents, and 1/4 of parents actually in support of remote learning, and over 10% they actually said that they might gonna move, whether it's because of pandemic, because of lack of remote learning. So it's exacerbating the problem of enrollment dropping. So I think that I think the parent making their choice based on what they need, not what was offered and what was given by our education system, because we as a parent ultimately responsible for the safety of our kids. You know, if parents think that remote learning it meet their need of the academic for the children and safety of the children, I think we should let them have it. I mean, it's 25%. That's a large percentage. Just imagine half of it decide to move, and what happened to the school that with the dropping of enrollment, they can lose a lot of funding. So it's hurting the district and hurting those students in need. So that's how I see it. You know, it's 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the starting, or 3 weeks before starting of school, and we have not heard any concrete answer on how our education system is going to support those parents. 25%, that's a lot, who has such need. So yeah, I'm surprised that they have something like this, they publish something like this, and it just seems like they're just kicking the ball, you know, from one to another. I mean, no one want to take responsibility. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's a big leap of faith to, you know, see this guidance from New York State that basically says if schools close, that it's okay to just like send kids home with packets or have, you know, what are the teachers going to be doing? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, kids can't be home for 2 weeks quarantining and just have packets.
That's what one do starting mid-March until end of the school year, because DOE wasn't prepared for all of this. But 18 months now, already they're still gonna send packets. I mean, it's unbelievable. No one want to take accountable for this thing. So.
Yeah.
And I think what's being asked is reasonable. I mean, set up some kind of centralized, you know, if it's constrained on the teaching resource, centralize it so that the resource can be better utilized. But until now, no such planning. We have seen no such planning. Like, you know, it's end of August, still nothing. So.
I'd like to offer an alternative to that letter, in that I think the argument that it makes is that the most marginalized children and families stand to benefit the most from a remote option. And I think that's dishonest. I go into NYCHA housing. I go into homeless shelters. My patients are children in foster care who have disturbances and aren't thriving during the pandemic, certainly. So when we talk about, like, when we invoke the most marginalized kids and families so often, and it's done in a way that sort of also gives me what I want, and I'm not the most marginal, that seems to be a really bad way to measure policy. And I can say that if we just merely by metrics look at high school and middle school attendance from last year, and to honestly say that this is working for the most marginalized people, like that doesn't add up. Like, it's certainly not it. I mean, I could go on and on anecdotally about children I work with that were acute hospitalizations because their needs weren't being met, you know, in the foster home or, you know, in their community. But I do think that the case can be certainly made that a remote option could be a possibility, but given the argument that's supposed to get us there is so, I think, far from reality, like, and it's so sort of exploitative, like that it's taking kids who really do, like a kid living with food insecurity does not prefer to stay home rather than school. A kid living with domestic violence in the home does not prefer to stay home rather than school. You know, that those are the most marginalized kids. The kids living in the shelter wouldn't rather stay in the shelter, they'd rather go to school. So let's operationalize what the most marginalized means and then be honest about whether this policy is really for them or if it's just for somebody with resources that works from home and prefers a remote option, you know, or that they're really genuinely worried about safety and so forth. Those are all arguments that can be made, but let's keep it factual and respectful to the most marginalized communities.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to? Oh,
Thank you for that. I think it's spot on, and I 100%, you know, agree, you know, with the point at which is looking at it. I just want to add on to the point that if you look at the statistics that came out last year, and which people were really affected by the pandemic, right? Is then again, it's the most marginalized people, you know, in a certain community where, number one, they didn't have access to the necessary resources, whether being internet, whether being guidance, right, from a parent that they had to log online, whether being computers, although all these things were being tried to, they tried to, you know, give that to them. A typical day of a kid that lives in, you know, the natural housing is that you wake up, first of all, your parents may have to go to work, right? There's no internet. Now the kid is, okay, you know, let's get free internet. Now the lunch comes around. There's nobody out there to guide them to lunch. They have to go down there and go get school lunch by themselves, right? There's no parental guidance over here, right? So if you're talking about that aspect, the safest place for them to be is actually in school, where there's a proper structure, there's proper guidance, and the parents know that they're at a place where they actually learn. When it comes to no-shows, statistically, in that community, you know, in the community that most marginalized they're talking about, there was about less than 30% attendance rate, which was far way below. It's just because of the fact that either there was no monitoring, they didn't have the right access, right? In addition to that, they didn't have the resources as well. So you're right, let's try to separate those two apples and oranges. And if we talk about remote option, let's talk about remote option. Let's talk about why does remote option, but try to mix the two, just doesn't jive together, right? I think it takes the attention away from the sort of need that we need to give to the most marginalized and try to wrap into other people's agenda. And so I think that's what we need to. I'm not against a fully remote option. However, I think the argument that is being made is far-fetched, and we just want to make sure that we're being respectful to the people that actually need their kids to be in school and saying and having a voice for them, but not the right voice that actually benefits them. I think we all, you know, we need to be sensitive to that aspect of it. So I just wanted to say that, and when we look at remote option, let's look at it in a way that just talks about people that maybe they have a valid reason come to a remote option, and the valid reason may be, I don't know what, I'm not, maybe something that is unique to the situation. That's fine, and we don't know that yet. But let's not throw a blanket on the situation and just say, oh, this is the case, just because it just stops us from actually addressing the needs that we're supposed to. So I think that that's a point that I want to make in addition to that. And I think the more that we focus on things that are really valid and that really impact people specifically, we're going to get to a further point than just having like ambiguity and blanket statements, just kind of doing around. That's
Yep. So Antonia has some thoughts also.
Here. Or, no, I'll just turn it. Oh, wait, this is yours? Oh, shoot, I think that's mine. I think I mixed up our water bottle. Oh, boy. Hello, everybody. So, given what our superintendent said, what I've heard the mayor say, what I've heard the chancellor say, I think a more effective resolution would not be one for an option, would be one for a narrow accommodation. I am concerned about children who are living with the immunocompromised. We've tried to inquire to the DOE whether those children are eligible for such an accommodation, and I have not been able to get an answer. So I would support a more narrow resolution targeted at students needing an accommodation. I don't know that is the only accommodation, I'm not sure, but that one seems to be an obvious one. I'm also concerned that the resolution picks up nationwide statistics rather than New York City statistics, because we are not the rest of the country. New York City has a very effective layered approach with a mask mandate, now a vaccine mandate for all employees. We have high vaccination rates. We have ventilation. We heard from our Office of School Facilities about all the upgrades to ventilation, and we have testing. And we have seen, even with the Delta virus over the summer in our Summer Rising program, that the pattern is the same as it was before the Delta virus, in that our schools are very controlled environments that are in fact safer than the communities and the apartment buildings in many cases that our students are living in, where parents aren't necessarily vaccinated, where they're not wearing masks in the buildings, where they're not getting regular testing, where the ventilation could be subpar, and to spend the majority and many kids spend their entire waking hours in schools. And I think the pattern is clear that our schools are in fact safer to spend those waking hours when it comes to the coronavirus than our neighborhoods. So I think if we could come to some sort of consensus around a more pared down resolution highlighting an accommodation for folks who need it, and using statistics that are New York focused rather than the rest of the country, I think I could get behind that.
Okay. I'm just wondering what would be the downside, though, of providing a remote option for parents who for whatever reason, don't feel that the schools are a safe environment. They may not have heard our meeting where we talked to the building facilities person who described in detail, what they've done in the buildings. They may be people who, no matter what they hear from the DOE, don't believe them, and because of their experience with the DOE in the past, may be justified in distrusting the DOE. I mean, I just don't see a downside to providing that as an option for parents who, for whatever reason, don't feel like the school is, especially, you know, for kids under 12 who aren't vaccinated. So I advocate a resolution that that does give parents that option. I mean, I mean, I feel like if you want the language to be more specific, you know, that's fine for the resolution, you know, be more credible. You know, we could call it an accommodation as opposed to an option, but I think that one of the accommodations should be for parents who just are want to choose not to send their kids in.
Can I
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah.
I guess I have to. So I think that if you are an affluent family, you are meeting the physical, social, emotional, and academic needs of your children. And there may be children out there whose families choose remote and cannot meet their physical and social emotional needs in the way that they can be met in the controlled environment. And there are risks, there are health risks to remote learning, and that they cannot be dismissed. And children who may not have the best parental advocates may select remote, and they will be put at risk.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick point that it's really about how we as parents balance the health risks and the educational benefits, right? At the end of the day, what I'm seeing is that we as a parents, I'm a parent too, is the one that ultimately decide which one always the other, right? Having the options of making that choice, it's very important. Putting a lot of restriction on what is accommodation, what is option, I think that there should be a plain option, however you want to call it, but essentially it's an option for us to choose which one always the other, right? Because every family is different, not everyone thinks the same, right? So I'm always an advocate of parent choices. Having that choices is very important. So I think the language current, I think the current language, I think we did review the actual language of the resolution, right, from the last meeting?
No, because you had proposed that we do the resolution, and then we had the CECL resolution, and then I kind of like pared it down so that it was just one page and a little bit more focused. And then we shared it, and then you know, people were interested in talking about it. I think we are interested in talking about it.
Would you want to post it? Would you want to post it so everyone can actually scan through to see if there's any language that we want to update?
Let me see if I can. The thing is, I wonder if I can get in here. Yeah, okay, so Antonia had been playing around a little bit with this earlier today. Let me
share that, because that's you need to share the clean.
Well, we could do it this way. Look.
I don't know what you did.
I just did view only. So in the original draft, It was talking about more than 60% of New York students and their families, educator staff, participated either fully or partially in remote learning in the spring of 2021. Wait a minute. I mean, maybe that should be in the school year 2020-21. All right, anyway. Children under 12 years are not eligible for the vaccination. Many have siblings. The rate of vaccination among 12 to 17-year-olds is lower than the vaccination rate of those 18 and older. And this is where Antonia was saying that the reference to the state should really be a reference to the city. I totally agree. A more contagious variant of SARS, which makes children more susceptible to infection and transmission, is now the dominant variant in New York City. Immunocompromised students may be eligible for medical accommodations. I believe that they are, but we couldn't get an answer on whether if the family member is immunocompromised, can the student, so we were still waiting to hear about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're saying like a grandparent that's.
Like if they live
Like,
together.
right, then that child will be.
But is it that they have to live with them, or he's saying like if they've got a grandparent who they don't necessarily live with, but they want to visit their grandparent, I don't think it probably doesn't extend to people who don't live in your home.
Yeah, I think it's in the home. New York City school buildings are overcrowded and do not have the space to provide consistent social distancing.
I don't know that that's true.
I mean,
I think there are lists of schools that's been circulating in social media that that schools are really overcrowded, and use PS94 as one example. PS94 before COVID was really overcrowded, but right now, a year, 18 months from now, actually the enrollment dropped. One reason is COVID, another reason is parents are seeking for better education, so they move. So that's a combination of it. But I think that the list of schools that's still overcrowded, I think those are still valid. So for those schools that try to move even 3 feet, it may not even be feasible. So making such a demand, like one size fits all approach and apply to all schools with different situation, this is not realistic, and also concern the need of parents, right? I mean, freeze out space, give them option of freeze out space for those schools. Would be win-win situations. That's how I see it.
okay, and then other large school districts in the U.S., including the country's second largest, are offering a remote option to families.
I don't think that's valid.
Relevant.
Which one is it?
Number 7. Other large school districts in the U.S., including the second largest, are offering a remote option.
I think what happened is that they are, I think, I forgot the actual number, but there are many states actually offer full, even pre-pandemic, has that full remote learning options. New Jersey, New York, New Jersey don't have the option, but people are considering to move to PA. I get those articles from other parents. They actually consider move PA because they always have a remote learning option.
We don't even allow virtual schooling.
Exactly, that's what.
In New York City.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring. That's what I'm referring to. Other state actually allows it even before pandemic. So they're actually looking into the option.
With all due respect, a lot of people moved out because they were offering in-person learning as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like.
Yeah, that's how it is.
True.
But it's if you think the language is irrelevant, it's okay. But the matter of fact is that all the state offers such options, and for those parents who want it and need it. So, but our state does not currently offer it.
Right. And then one last whereas, many students and communities have found solace in virtual learning due to lack of bullying. Students have faced for common in-person behaviors that are often shunned, stigmatized, and criminalized. Therefore, be it resolved that the DOE offer a remote option for families who choose not to take the risk of their child contracting or transmitting SARS at school.
I really think that last line is manipulative and not based on any data or facts or, I don't think it belongs in a resolution.
So that the only, I'm gonna think about last spring, right? You can make the argument that because it was alternate days, there were lesser kids, right? There was more space, so the space got a bit more. Now everybody coming back and taking more time. You don't know what's going on, but statistically, based on what the school year that we had, the school was going to be a safer place. However, the dynamics will change a little bit. It's coming along. 5 days a week, after 2 days, 1 week, right? 3 weeks, after 16, right? You know, what's the norm for the environment? So those are the things that we don't know yet. But if you talk about statistics, there's no statistics out there right now. That proves that the school was considered. We don't know but I said that these are no variables. But the only thing that we think about is something that we can differentiate. Rather than that, I think everything else is speculation.
The other issue is there's no robust remote option. It doesn't exist. It hasn't been built. Are you going to want to throw your kid into something that is just slapdash together?
I think a lot of families do. A lot of families are really involved. You know, even if like, just because they feel like it's so unsafe, they would rather no learning than.
Oh, that, well, I don't think that's how you build policy.
And I will, this is anecdotal, but speaking to parents on our playground, a lot of the parents that have no problem sending their kids to class with different kids every day, every week, have a problem. And where do we, I know that there are parents that this is a safety risk and didn't do things like college, and kept their kids home. And it was strictly about preserving the safety of the kid. But I don't know if that's what the energy behind this letter is from. Like, I don't, like, based on what I've read in this letter, I would say it's probably not. And maybe that is a factor, but I don't think that's what this is about.
Yeah.
And it feels more like state-funded homeschooling is now a possibility where it wasn't in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, about the homeschooling, the DOE actually does offer an option for, say, for example, you know, the child had to be in the hospital or was doing chemo treatments. Like, there is an option to have like that type of learning outside of the school building, but it's not meant to be a long-term option. And I don't know a lot about it. From what I've heard from the special ed council, they say that the design of it is terrible, and you know, it would need to be like, you just could not have that as a long-term plan. Like, the kids just don't get what they need, even academically. So, and then, you know, regarding a central remote option, I'm not sure that we are actually structurally built to provide that. Like, even if we wanted that. And I have a lot of concerns about that, about, well, I mean, like privacy and using the children for research studies. And, you know, I guess some of this, like, sometimes is done, but that just seems like that's a model for just giving it all away to somebody else. So, you know, I would not advocate for a central remote option. Like, to me, I'd like to see it still in the district. And I mean, I'm like in other spaces besides like District 15. And so the Bronx is strongly advocating for a fully remote option. I mean, they are just having, you know, massive demonstrations and meetings about a fully remote option. So I'm not sure how that is going to play itself out, but I think, like, Antonia, of course, has brought up a number of, and you all have, like, brought up a number of really good points. Like, I mean, I don't want this to just die here, and if we think that we can put something on paper and, you know, like, it'll still be useful for the people who really are going to need it, which, I mean, for sure, the immunocompromised children and families, like, that's sort of a no-brainer. But there's still no, like, vision of what that looks like. So, you know, what does that look like in the end?
That, to me, for me, that feels the most irrational, to not even have a flexibility or a contingency plan, and just assuming that there is not going to be a case in school at any point, in the same way that, like, we saw that from Summer Rising, as small as they may have been, there were still cases. So what is a contingency plan for making sure that those families have at least some seamless connection to their school and aren't interrupted and basically left out to limbo with, like, a packet that they're basically, like, on their own to fend for themselves? It just really, like, this idea that, like, they're being very adamant there will be no cases, considering the landscape as it is right now, and school starting in just a few weeks, it doesn't feel like it's going to improve. So it just feels like they're shooting themselves in the foot to not have any room for flexibility. It really feels like if we've not learned anything the last 18 months.
I don't think they're saying there's not going to be any cases, and it sounds like they're going to come up with some plan, and I assume it's going to be some school-driven remote
Learning when we have to go into quarantine again, or when there's a school closure. I think
Right now is basically like we're moving forward with this, and there is no remote accommodation.
they don't reveal anything until it's fully flushed out.
My theory is that they are going to offer it, but they're delaying it to maximize vaccination rates. That's my theory.
Well, now we've evolved into theories. I think we should move on the agenda.
School in the district and beyond that has any like direct communication from their schools about this is what your first day is going to look like coming in. This is what we need from you guys. And that, you know, I fully understand everybody's burned out, school officials included in that. But for families to be completely in the dark, it just really.
And as Anita, they're on vacation right now. You know what I mean? Like every year, they're always like this. Always.
Yeah, I hope that theory will. I hope your theory come out to be true. I love it.
Me too.
But for what I'm seeing for all the track record on DOE, all we are seeing is that DOE always scrambling in the last minute.
Yes.
Like in 2020, mid March, it was scrambling, and 6 months later, with new school year, they were still scrambling. And now 18 months, they still have. I hope they are working on plan, right? But what I'm seeing is they are looking to scramble again in the last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alfred, did you want to say something?
Yeah. I just don't see how the Board of Ed doesn't have a backup plan if there is a possibility that, especially children under 12 who aren't vaccinated, are going to get sick, and at any moment, either a class or the whole school can get shut down. So at some point, the Board of Education has to have some sort of plan for remote learning. So I'd love to know what that is, you know, I think when you think of it that way, parents saying, why can't I just opt into remote learning right at the beginning if the plan is there? You know, unless it's a logistics concern with teachers. That's you know, I don't agree with taking teachers out of the school if it's being offered to them to offer remote, but I just refuse to believe that the Board of Education is not planning for the the possibility, a realistic possibility of schools shutting down, because especially when kids aren't vaccinated yet. So, I mean, we saw it last year, 1 or 2 children get it, and they were shutting down whole classrooms and floors for weeks at a time. Parents were complaining about it for, you know, good reasons, but I don't know if their policy has changed, but if they do that again this year, then to me, that plan has to be in place already. I just refuse to believe that the Board of Ed hasn't planned for that. That would be completely short-sighted. So if it's there already and there's parents that want to opt in, whether or not we question a parent's judgments or not, or their motives, maybe it should be there, unless it's a logistics problem.
I mean, since we have school starting in 3 weeks and we're not going to meet before the school start, can we at least motion a vote on this draft? So at least have something before the school start?
I'm not ready to go. I don't even know what the draft is.
I don't know what you guys think.
I haven't seen the final draft.
I mean, if we want to continue working on this, we could just call a special session.
Call a special session.
I think, you know, when we want to solve this, you know, I think we want to, especially myself and I just realized that, so, the community, that we can, I don't think we have all facts, we don't get to actually, you know, say you're right. Yeah, other things that should come to the forefront. So maybe this is on the table and come back to you later.
I need to see a final draft.
Yeah. So I'll share, like, you all should look at the changes that Antonia made anyway. And then I'll share it again. You have access to it anyway. So, and then we can look at it, and like, if we can tighten it up, we'll just call a special session and vote.
All right, I'm gonna move to adjourn at 9:27, and then can we do the annual?
Wait, we're already at 9:27?
Yes, we have to.
Oh my
We
God.
can't leave.
Steve,
meeting-
what time is this permit over? Oh, okay. I told the agent 9:30.
Okay, roll call. Camille Tezzareti.
Present.
Antonio Barrow, yes. Tia.
No, we forgot new business.
Claudia.
Oh, God.
Vincent.
Yeah, do you want to spend
Nana.
5 minutes just to
Alfred,
quickly go
Joseph.
over it?
Megan. Yes, okay.
Antonia,
We
you
need that script.
railroaded new business.
We have to get out of the building.
Election gonna be quick. Yeah, just spend 5
I gave
minutes.
it to Camille.
Okay, so
Oh.
you have to elect a pro temp to run the election, that isn't gonna run for the president. But once you have a president, then you can get out the rest of the office.
What did I do with the script? I lost it. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else want to?
Okay, so,
Claudia?
I'm sorry, we need a.
Someone who runs the meetings, not us. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm going to be a volunteer.
Okay, good.
No,
you have to sit there.
Okay.
You gotta vote on it.
You got it.
Okay. So you gotta vote on the president.
Okay.
You can do that.
I'm in favor.
Oh, great.
yes, we vote.
Oh, you're voting on
We're
me?
voting.
Voting for Joe. We're voting for him to run the meeting, run the
We
election.
need someone that isn't the president.
Yes.
I just want to say out loud that at the point where we finish this, we really need to, like, at least have a conversation about the part that we skipped over on the other side. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, read aloud. It is now the time? 9:29, and the meeting of Community Citywide Education Council number 15 will come to order. My name is Joe Alexander. I'm convening the annual meeting for the purpose of electing officers. Roll call.
Okay, Camille.
Present.
Antonia. Yes, Tia.
Yes.
Claudia. There. Vincent.
Yeah.
Ina, not here. Nana? Alfred?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Ivan?
The council's bylaw requires that officers be elected by roll call vote and at the annual meeting. To be elected, a candidate must have at least 6 votes. Officers remain in position until their successors have been elected. The first order of business is to elect a chair pro tem. It's not me. The election meeting, blah, 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 or meeting until the president has been elected. The chair pro tem, we will vote on other offices after that of president. If no candidate receives at least 6 votes for a position, we will vote on whether to do a second or third round of voting. Are there any nominations for chair pro tem? Me, right? Why am I reading all of this? Yeah, am I supposed to start somewhere else? Help me. Nominations are closed, and we'll proceed to a roll call vote.
I'd like to nominate Joe as chair pro tem.
We already did that. Yeah,
So you just skip to
elected officers.
Yep.
Okay.
As prior to 10 candidates we allowed, so you just go.
Okay. To elect officers, we will vote upon each position before moving on to the next, so that any candidate can not elected to an office can run for others. I will take nominations. Members can nominate themselves. If a member is nominated by another member, I will confirm that he or she accepts the nomination. If a member is not present but has submitted his or her nomination in writing to the AA or another member, he or she will be treated the same as any member who is present, including having a 2-minute statement read aloud by somebody else. Each nominee will be allowed to make a speech up to 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. Following the candidate's presentation, we will conduct a roll call vote. All positions must be voted on, even if there is only one candidate. Where there are 2 or more candidates, each member must make a choice and vote for one or the other. Members may abstain from voting. If no candidate receives at least 6 votes, we will move on to the next position and return to undecided positions at the end. If a position remains unfilled over 2 or more rounds of voting, the incumbent will continue in the position. New elections for all unfilled positions must be put to an agenda of the following month's calendar meeting. Is the procedure clear to all members?
Yes.
First, we will elect the council president. Are there any nominations for the office of president?
I would like to self-nominate.
Any others? Nomination.
I would like to nominate.
Okay.
You're nominating yourself? You're not, okay. Nominations for the office of president are now closed. I will call each candidate in alphabetical order to make a statement of up to 2 minutes. After all candidates have spoken, we will proceed with a roll call vote.
Thank you so much. I would like to continue in the role as president. I have learned so much from the years that I have been on CEC. I continue to learn about citywide policies, and I have been doing a lot of work with training other CEC members, including last night when I was a panelist in the training that was hosted on FACE. I want to continue doing whatever I can for this district and support our students and families and try to continue to build community. And I appreciate all of you, and I hope that you will vote for me, and thank you so much.
You're good.
Good evening, my name is Vincent Lu. I'll be serving a CISO citywide for English language learner for the past 2 years. During that 2 years, it was a great opportunity for me to work with different council from with different background, with different perspective, and also interact with our parents. And this year, I'm also being elected. I'm so grateful that as a L representative for CEC15, and I'm just excited. And I hope that I'm given the opportunity to for something new, something grateful, and that's why I'm trying to run for this president position, and hope that this will be a opportunity for me to continue to serve and better serve our audience in my districts and all of our towns. Thank you.
So now time to vote. We just do that out loud.
Yeah,
So just do roll call.
yeah, you say the name of the person you want to vote for.
Okay. Camille. Okay. Antonia, I am going to vote for Camille. Tia. Camille. And Claudia. Vincent.
Vincent, myself.
Ina's not here. Nana. Alfred.
Vincent.
Vincent. Joseph.
Camille.
And Ivan Bonner. Security's here. Yeah,
Congratulations, Camille. You have been elected to serve as council president
Thank you.
for 2018-2019.
We have till 10.
Okay, so
Oh, you're the president.
do this very quickly. So there's two vice president roles, co-VP1. We have to do them separately. And are there any nominations for co-VP1?
I would like to nominate myself as co-VP1.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for co-VP1? Okay, so the nominations are now closed, and congratulations. What happened to uncontested? Oh, it's not uncontested? Okay, let's do it. Camille, I vote yes. Wait a minute, we have a bit. Okay, let's just do this quickly. I'm just gonna go around the room. Alfred? Did you say yes? Yes. Okay. Vincent? Yes. Okay. Claudia? Yes. Okay. Yvonne? Okay. Tia? Yes. Joe? Okay. Nana? Okay. Congratulations. Okay, great. You can just take this later. Okay, so co-VP2. Do I hear any nominations for co-VP2? Yvonne, you had told me you were interested.
I nominate Yvonne.
Okay. Anybody else? Co-VP2 nominations? Okay. So then the nominations are closed. Yvonne, we will vote for Yvonne now. I am going to vote yes. Antonia? Alfred? Yes. And Vincent? And Claudia? Yes. Yvonne? Yes. Tia?
Yes.
Joe? Okay. Nana? Okay, congratulations. Secretary. Okay, so this is the recording secretary. And we do not have an AA.
Very critical role.
It's a very critical role. We can work out a deal about the minutes in the absence of our AA.
Administrative assistant.
Yes. Is anybody interested in the role of secretary? Ultimately, when we have an administrative assistant, the role of the secretary is just to confirm the minutes and to confirm that the votes were accurate. So that's the main role of the secretary.
You're not making a transcription.
Yes, no transcripts. No. Uh-oh.
Anybody?
Oh, God.
Anybody want secretary? It's a pretty easy role. It is. It really is. It's a pretty easy role, but it's gotta be done. And it kind of gives you a good understanding of how the meetings run, because you are like taking those notes every time, and you learn how, you know, the motions are made, and I don't know.
Okay, moving right along. We will discuss secretary at the next meeting. Is anybody interested in the role of treasurer? The role of, come on.
And then treasurer also signs the president's reimbursement.
It's actually it's the easiest.
Treasurer is by far the easiest role. By far the easiest.
Okay. Very good.
Alfred? Okay.
Nice, thank you. Okay, so the nominations are now closed. We are going to vote for Alfred. So Camille, yes. Antonia, yes. Vincent, yes. Alfred. Is that a maybe? Yes. Claudia. Claudia, yes. Yvonne, yes. Tia, Joe, Nana. Okay. All right. We're all going to support each other, by the way. You know, nobody's going to be thrown to the wolves. Okay. So now, what?
Parliamentarian.
Oh God, yes, that crucial, critical role.
So the parliamentarian makes sure that we don't end up at like 9:30.
Yeah.
Doing like a time, which the parliamentary is timing the speakers and keeping them on track. And
yeah,
I guess if somebody got out of hand, the parliamentarian could have to step in.
What? They're not a bouncer.
But you could call somebody out of line. You could call somebody.
Sure.
You could say you're out of order.
Yeah, out of order.
You know.
I think there's mostly just sort of separating the voices that sort of, you know, making
Yeah.
sure that everyone has to say on it.
I did it last year. It was good. I mean, there are some nights that we really need to like, you know, move it along, you know, because we already answered the same questions.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people don't want to hear the 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's definitely a necessary role.
And there's like no homework.
If you were
There's
on the
no
debate
homework.
team in your younger days or even present days, this could be a good role for you because you know Robert's
You sit
rules
there
of
with your
order.
phone and you
Yeah,
track.
you
You
timer.
put the timer on.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Yay.
Nice. Okay.
Joseph.
You get two points because you were chair pro tem too.
Okay.
Okay, so the nominations are now closed for parliamentarian, and Joe is our candidate. So I will call the roll. Camille, yes.
Yes.
Antonia, yes. Vincent, yes. Alfred, yes. Claudia, yes. Yvonne,
Yes.
yes. Tia,
Yes.
and Joe. And Nana gives me the thumbs up.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much. Congratulations. All right, so we have two other titles. One of them, those are for committees. communications chair and a legislative committee chair. So they're in our bylaws.
Yeah, aren't they just appointed by the president?
Aren't they just what?
Are they appointed by the president or are they voting?
I don't
In the
remember.
past, we voted for those.
I have no idea.
I think it actually wasn't appointed. I remember when we decided that we.
Yeah, I don't
needed
remember a vote
communications.
on the
Oh,
communication. I don't remember a vote on the
Where it
communication.
was like, I'll do that.
I'm so confused.
Well, then the committees are listed in the bylaws.
Yes, for CISO, personal appointed chair or community chair, but it says in the bylaw. It has to say in the bylaw. It depends on how. If it doesn't say it, then how we're gonna vote for it?
Yeah, I don't know if that's it.
It just says we have the committee.
I think you have to vote to form the committee.
But I think.
But I don't think you need.
Oh, yeah, chairs shall be appointed and removed by the president. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, we have to
Oh,
talk
God.
about.
Okay. All right. Appointed by chair.
What?
So there's your bylaws.
Appointed by chair.
You memorized our bylaws? Nice job, Steve. Give that guy a raise.
Yeah, really. Because I haven't memorized.
We worked on them and we never remember what are in there.
Well, we did like 100 drafts. I mean, we worked on that for like 3 months.
I'll read your bylaws.
You're right.
I was just reading.
That's not what the.
All right, so new
Yeah.
business.
Well, this is state guidance, so they can follow it, or they could.
State, that's not constitutional.
No, this is state.
Okay, so are we?
Well, we're just gonna talk about. Oh, yeah, you can turn that on, because this is recording.
Are we reading
Wh-
this
which one is the
resolution
host?
from District 2 out loud? Is that what we're doing?
Did Vincent sent the resolution around, and we were going to discuss whether we wanted to adopt it? Here, why don't you present? Shoot.
You want me to read it, or has anyone got a chance to read it?
Summarize.
Yeah, I think what the resolution's looking for is family engagement. I think what I have seen for a lot of education policy from DOE was there's a truly lack of engagement with parents before any crucial change being made. Whether it's given talent, whether the other education program, whether it's the like in-person learning or remote learning, there's nearly no engagement before the policy is made. So I think this is really focused on given talent program. Because of a pandemic, there's a lot of changes. DOE made prior changes to DOE without any engagement before it was set. So I think this in some way it's asking DOE for parent engagement before they are making any changes to DOE to given talent program. That's in a nutshell what the resolutions passed by CEC 2. And if you haven't got a chance, take a look at it. You can spend your time to read through it. It's pretty straightforward. In short, it's asking for more parent engagement, and I think this is very crucial, and it's absolutely needed. So.
I had a question overall, like, are we focusing on, yes, I agree with you that there's been, I mean, we just sort of discussed a whole myriad of ways that like parent engagement has happened. But are we asking that specifically for G&T programs specifically, or just, like, are we linking those together in the way that they did?
That's a good question. This is specifically for different talents program because we support the need of our parents, and their students has different capability. Some just learn faster. Some just prefer a accelerate program. This is just one need for our students, and from what we have seen, we've given the change made by DOE during the pandemic, there was no engagement. So this is really trying to set the stone that we are asking there has to be engagement, parent engagement before any additional change is being made.
So you're talking about for next year's admission policy?
That's correct.
Okay.
Going
And
forward, yes.
so what, I mean, I know that, you know, we always want more parent engagement. That's the entire purpose of
Exactly, yeah.
of what we're doing here. So what, I felt like in reading the resolution, that it was indicating that there was a particular parent engagement that the DOE had agreed to that they then did not provide.
They
And
didn't
so
follow.
can you just, yeah, what was CEC2 looking for that did not happen specifically? Because I mean, I know they did town halls. I'm not saying that that's sufficient, but it does sound like there was a particular kind of engagement that they did not see happen.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're referring to the citywide town hall.
Yeah. Well, they also went to each district.
Right. I actually attend all of them.
I'm sorry?
I actually attend.
Yeah, yeah.
I personally actually attend all
Right,
of them.
right, right.
Every single one of them.
Right.
And one of the issue with that is that most of it's for DOE to share information rather than taking
Right.
feedback.
Right.
And all the feedback being given wasn't being considered.
Right.
So basically the decision already made
Right.
before they engage the parent. So I think what the CC2 looking for is they are looking DOE to do the true parent engagement where they taking feedback and use that feedback to make the decision rather than all the way around.
And
So
what,
that's what I have
would that
seen.
look like, though? I mean, you know, like smaller focus groups, for example, breakout group, where there's talking back and forth between parents and DOE representatives. Like, what would it look like for you to feel that the DOE is considering what parents are saying? Private meetings, like, you know,
Participatory action research?
It's not.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a good question. It's not being clearly stated in the resolutions. If this is something we will want to be more specific, or perhaps develop our own resolution, I think that could be one of the feasible approach. But in the nutshell, on this resolution, it's basically asking DOE to incorporate, I'm just reading from it, and incorporate family input for any future program intent, for change to any intended program to meet education need of accelerate and was a student learner.
Yeah.
So it's not asking very specific method or format, but in the high level, it needs to be taking the input and considering those inputs to base those inputs to make the decision.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but there was a part that sort of said something about the DOE didn't deliver something that it had promised or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that part, but absolutely what you're saying about the DOE listening to parents more is something that we've often talked about and written into resolutions. Yeah, so that's great. Joe.
I think this will probably need to be a longer debate than what we have tonight. My big concern with this resolution is similar to the last resolution we have read, which is it conflates kids who are identified as gifted and talented as having the same set of problems that kids with diagnosed disabilities. And that's not the case at all. That's not what the law suggests, and that's not what teachers observe in the classroom. They have very different needs that are met in different ways. And in fact, you know, if we look at the history of gifted and talented programs, the quality of the G&T school in DOE, and compare it to the quality of a D75 school, we find out that equity really isn't proportionate, and it sort of shifts resources to the kids that were already doing well in the first place.
Yeah.
And the D75 schools don't improve, and resources are finite. And when we talk about ESA does not say that we grow resources to kids who are identified as G&T. We provide education for teachers to help identify those skill sets. We do that. You know, DOE does that. You know, they are identifying, they are testing kids, and we do identify, but that doesn't mean we provide them a separate school or, you know, really carte blanche programs that you know, that are well above what the average DOE kid gets. So
Yeah, I think your argument is surrounding whether or not to have a G&T and how do we have a G&T. And this resolution is really about to give parent feedback, because at the end of the day, it's really about what our parents want and what's the need of our students. And this is really about DOE should consider those feedback, you know, and to incorporate those feedback into any changes. I think you may have a valid argument about how G&T is and how G&T was and which way is good or bad, but this probably can be a separate discussion. But
Well,
this,
also,
yeah.
but there's some of the whereases do make the argument that G&T is necessary and that these children should have separate programs. So maybe that should be a separate resolution, and you know what you're talking about can be more the focus of the CEC.
I think the parent engagement, it should be addressed as a general parent engagement rather than GNT. And the problem, if you know, District 15 has been one of the most segregated districts in the country. And we are working towards change that, right? But one of the tools that produce the segregation is GNT, screening, specialized schools. So we are working on things that, you know, are affecting the district, that it wasn't created for us, but it was given to us to try to look for a solution. So if we're gonna look for parent engagement, we try to, for example, say, was the most segregated district in the country, and these are the tools that took us to that segregation of the country, and we need to change it. So when you bring just GNT as a part of the parent engagement, I mean, it's, in this district, it's a little bit difficult.
But can I just want to voice an opinion, because I don't want Vincent to stand here by himself. I just want to say that there is a point that there are students that are advanced, and if they're left in a class where they're not being challenged, they are going to disengage. And I don't think that's, you know, parents saying it. I think that's science. And so I think what Vincent's proposal in the resolution is that the DOE engage in some sort of notice to the parents and let the parents have a voice in the process. And while I agree segregation is a problem and stuff, I think kids that are advanced should be challenged, should enjoy school, and they should have advanced programs.
I mean, there's an argument for like, why does the DOE not allow children to skip a grade? And then, you know, there's the social component to that, which wraps itself into the whole idea of the Gifted and Talented Act, which was that students were not able to. Okay, so we'll
analyze the historical perspective of this.
I move to adjourn at 10 o'clock.
All right, we will continue to talk about parent engagement, which of course is critical.
Yeah.
Yes.
And given that we haven't had any information on opening, and we're opening in 3 weeks, it would be nice to have parent engagement.
And there's nothing new for District 15. We have videos that you can check on the website, on our website, about the work that we've been doing related to that.
Closing off at 10 p.m. Good night, everyone.
It was. I said right here, it was.